All right, we are starting Number Systems Part 3. Today's lessons we're going to talk about what are numbers. Numbers can be classified or put into different types of sets or classification. We're going to look at 3 different sets today, one of them a little bit more in depth. So I want you to write down these 3 quick definitions. Whole numbers. Whole numbers is a set of numbers starting at 0 and going up. They are whole numbers. So go ahead and write down this definition. If you want to write the example on the number line, you can. The second definition is integers. Integers is a set of numbers consisting of negative integers, 0, and positive integers. So it is positive and negative numbers, and it also includes 0, positive and negative numbers. So with your definition, I also want you to write down this example here. This might help you out, might come in handy for you to go ahead and write this. You have plenty of room over on the right side to write this. Okay, integers is what we're going to come back to in a second. Much of this lesson and these next couple units are going to be talking about integers and more specifically the negative numbers. But one more quick definition: rational numbers. Rational numbers are numbers that can be written as a fraction. So if you look at my number line up here, obviously 1/2, a half is a fraction, so that's a rational number. But 2 7/500 is also a rational number because it can be written as a fraction. So that is 2 3/4, so that can be written as a fraction. And any whole number can also be written as a fraction. 1 is just 1/1, so that is a fraction. 5 is 20/4. Okay, so that also is a rational number. So remember, any decimal that terminates or repeats can also be written as a fraction, which then will make it a rational number. Okay, so make sure you have those 3 definitions written down, and then we're going to talk more specifically here about integers and negative numbers. All right, so the negative numbers we're going to talk about, let's think about some real world situations. Kind of think in your mind right now if you can think of situations where your answer would be a negative, or something in real life where you would have a negative number as your answer. Most specifically, I think of temperature. Okay, we're getting into the cold months here, and our temperature is probably going to start to be below 0. So once our temperature hits below 0, it is considered a negative number. One of these mornings, we might have a -5-degree morning, which means that the temperature has fallen below 0. Okay, so it is into the negative numbers. Finance. You never want to be negative, believe me, but sometimes you might. Negative means might be a debt. Sometimes if you owe someone $5, you are in debt $5. So that means you owe someone. Okay, so you are in debt $5. Okay, when you get older, you want to make sure and really watch your checking account and things like that. So if you've ever heard of someone saying they bounce a check, that means they wrote a check, but there was no money in the account. So that means it bounced. You weren't able to pay for that. And you can kind of get into a lot of trouble for that. So finance is a really big deal for you all to know how to manage your finances. Elevation, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, about what that means. But if you've heard of sea level, above and below sea level, if you're below it, you're into the negative. If you're above it, you're into the positive. Okay? So let's move on a little bit. We're going to do some comparing here. We're going to do some on the number line. So in order to compare numbers, a number line really does help quite a bit. So if you look at these, I'm just going to put these on the number line. Easiest thing to look at first of all is what's my lowest number and what's my highest number, so I can make sure and put them in the right direction. So I've got my 0 here, so I'm going to start here. Here's my 0, so there's my D. Then this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then this would be a -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So let's see where everything belongs. So A was 2, -3 was B, 1.5, so that's right between here, so that's C. I already have my 0. -4 3/4. -4 3/4 means I'm almost close to 5. So be really careful with that. This is where -4 3/4 would be. It's almost close to 5, not here. Be careful with that, okay? And then -1 would be here, F. Okay? All right. All right, and here's one more example. I'm just gonna, the number line's already been done for you, so I'm just gonna plot my letters. There's my 4, my -3, my 5, 2.5 is gonna be right here, -2, and 3/4, which is almost 1, about there. Okay? All right, so now you have 1. I want you to go ahead and plot A through F on your number line. Pause the video and come back and check your answer. All right, check those answers. The one I want you to make sure and check is C, -3.5. -3.5 is between -3 and -4, so be careful. Make sure that's in the correct place. And also 4.5, +4.5 is between 4 and 5. Okay, so check those out. All right, you've got 6 to do. Go ahead and do those. If you look, you're going to have to make sure and figure out where you're starting your number line. So be careful with that. Some of them you might have to make each little tick mark maybe worth 2. So check those out, pause the video, and come back when you are finished. All right, check your work here. If you noticed a couple of them, I had to count by 2s. I counted by 2s on this one. I counted by 2s here. And even on this one, I still had to extend my number line here because it didn't all fit there. But I did try to show where my 0 was each time. Looks like I tried to show my 0 each time so you could see where that was. So that 0 is really important. So you always want to try to include your 0 if you have both positive and negative numbers. Okay? All right, if you have a question with that or you didn't get some of them right and you don't understand why, please make sure to ask. All right, turn your paper over on the back. Here are some words here that all deal with positive or negative connotation here. So what I want you to do is I want you to take the word increase and I want you to tell me, where does it go? Does that imply that it's a negative, or does that imply that it's a positive? Well, increase, it implies that it is a positive number. So that would go in the positive section. Okay, so I want you to pause the video and I want you to put all of these words where you think they belong. So on your paper, I want you to write them down. Okay, pause the video and come back. All right, check your words here. I think all of them you probably were okay with. One, I want to make sure, let's see, a deposit. Since you all really don't deal with a lot of money situations, if you deposit money into the bank, that means you're putting it in. So that's a good thing. That's a positive thing, okay? A loss, obviously, that is taking something away. Oh, let's go with this one, withdrawal. So if you put money in, you're depositing. If you withdraw money, you're taking it out, which is a bad thing. So you're taking out. It's a negative connotation. Okay, so we're going to be dealing with these words quite a bit, so you might need to refer back to these. So if you put them in the wrong place, make sure you scratch them out and put them over on the right one. Okay, so let's look at some situations here. So we're going to write an integer for each phrase here. So if I say it's 7 degrees below 0, 7 degrees below, there's my key word there, below. Okay, below was a negative, so it is -7. Okay, going up, 4 up means a positive, so that is a +4. If you owe someone, owing is bad, so that's a -$50. 150 meters above, above was a positive word, so that is a positive. Move back, going back, so that's a negative. And 5 shots under par, that is a negative. Okay? All right, so that is using those keywords we have to help you remember if it's a positive or a negative. Okay? All right, last part on your notes there. I want you to write down 3 situations where you would have a negative answer. Okay? Real life situations where you would have a negative answer. Now, don't use the ones that I have here. Don't just change the numbers. Think about them. Think about something that you would have. And then also write 3 situations where you would have a positive answer. Okay? So I really want you to think about those. Don't use what I did. And I'll be checking that tomorrow. All right. Have a great day.